Hello, everyone. Welcome to the sixth episode of Conversations with T. This is T speaking, and I'm back with Coach Key. She was the very first guest of this podcast, and I'm really looking forward to having another fruitful discussion with her because she's a very intelligent and insightful individual, and she knows uh, how to have meaningful conversations with others. Have you been, Coach?
Alhamdulillah, I have been really well. I feel like since you and I last spoke, I've learned a lot about myself in these past months. And so in this moment, I feel more sure about myself and just, I don't know, I feel really, really good. And I'm excited to get back up with you to have another fruitful conversation.
MashaAllah, inshallah. So I'm glad to hear that things have been going very well for you. For today's episode, I wanted to discuss the topic of fitting in. Of fitting in. I feel as though a lot of people struggle with this, and it's not something that happens in schools only. I mean, an individual could feel like an outcast from his or her family, work environment, or even the society where he or she was born and raised in. What's your take on this?
My immediate thought is the Disney movie Encanto that came out recently.
Really?
Um, and, I don't know if you watched it or if, the listeners or viewers have watched it, but in a nutshell, it's about a family who each member has some type of skill, magical type of thing going on that contributes to their family. And one particular family member did not get a magical skill or gift, or so she thought. And but there's another family member that seems to be like the perfect child. And so when you kind of see everything working out, if we talk about it from a family standpoint, you see everything working out for different members of your family, or everyone's kind of following the same traditions or ideologies, but you find that in yourself, like, I don't think that way. I don't feel that way. I don't want that definition of success. You will feel like an outsider, and you will feel the pulls of people trying to force you to be someone that you just aren't. And as children, we kind of succumb to those pressures of, pleasing family members, especially our parents. Or as we get older and we're like pressured by our social institutions, like our friends and our educational institutions, we feel this pull to, be someone that maybe we don't really align with because we want to appease people. And I realize in adulthood that it takes really knowing of yourself and really building confidence in your uniqueness and your individuality to like catch yourself when you find yourself about to fall into that trap of, I gotta fit in. And say, no, I don't need to fit in. I'm uniquely made how I am, and I'm okay with that. And as long as I'm okay with that, that suffices me. But it really starts, I find, at a younger age of like being conditioned to fit in. It's kind of sad that it takes us into adulthood to kind of like loosen the reins. But I do give a big shout out to parents who start raising their kids in a way that, no, you're not going to easily try to fit in. You're going to learn who you are and accept who you are and prioritize who you are versus, succumbing to fitting in. I said a lot, but those were just my initial thoughts listening to you.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, somewhat as children, when we're being conditioned to act a certain way or believe certain things, we subconsciously make other people's values our values, and that becomes problematic because we end up losing our sense of identity later on. What do you think?
I totally agree. And kind of tying back into our first conversation about social media, what I have found is that if you don't have a solid foundation of who you are before you start absorbing content on social media, you will get to a point where you're literally a sponge taking info from this person and that person to the point that your own thoughts and opinions are not naturally your own, but
Yeah.
they're highly, what's the word I'm trying to say? They are stimulated by other people's thoughts and opinions. I've even caught that within myself as a business owner, trying to figure out how to get on social media, specifically Instagram, and, make myself seen and heard. you have all these brand coaches and gurus and stuff like that telling you do this, don't do this. And then like content surrounding my niche. Like I got to a point where I was so overwhelmed because I'm like, Keyona, what are your thoughts? What are your experiences? What can you bring to the table that doesn't sound like you're regurgitating what everyone else is saying? And so I'm now seeing that, when we were kids, it was more so that in-person conditioning. But if you don't catch yourself, even how you use your device via YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, whatever social media platform you're on, and you're constantly stimulated by other people, you will kind of lose your own voice, lose your own identity because you're so absorbed in kind of like aligning with everybody else. And we have to be careful in how we are using social media to make sure that we don't lose ourselves and other people's thoughts and ideologies and opinions.
Yeah, exactly. Outside of social media, would you say that there were certain moments in your life when you struggle to fit in or meeting other people's expectations?
For sure. I can say my mom definitely raised me to be an individual. I remember the first day of secondary school. Well, I don't know what you guys consider middle school in your country, but like we call it middle school, in between primary and I guess high school.
Yeah.
But I remember like the first day of sixth grade, my mom asked me like, "Do you need friends?" And I told her no. It's like I don't need friends. I want friends. And I think my mom asked me that question because she knew that I was entering in a new world. Middle school is a lot different from elementary school.
And more difficult.
Yeah, because you're learning more mature things, and it's a lot going on in middle school.
Yeah.
So I think my mom asked me that to just ensure that I was staying true to myself. But even with my mom trying to raise me as a unique person and just not trying to fall into the traps of fitting in, I did experience some of that. And I found that what was interesting about my struggles with fitting in is that my conscience was talking to me. My conscience was telling me like, no, you don't have to do this, but I ignored it. And I realized later down the line that I ignored it because I was entering in this world from a place of lack of self-confidence, a lack of, having healthy self-esteem, this desire to want to be seen, heard, and have attention. And I saw that there was a transaction. You fit in, you get these things. And so that was my biggest struggle, having intergenerational trauma, having parental trauma, and then trying to find some type of cure, so to speak, from my social circle. And a part of that was selling myself to try to fit in, even when my conscience was like, baby girl, these are against your values. And it's like, wow.
I can somewhat relate, as for me personally, fitting in was a huge struggle for me. I often felt alone in school because I didn't have a lot of friends and I felt quite misunderstood by my peers. I wasn't taken seriously because I was different. I was perhaps not considered to be very good looking or cool in inverted commas, and I didn't do what the other kids did, such as doing drugs or partying. I think I was an easy target for certain individuals to bully or mistreat me because I was the odd one out and I didn't hang out with the popular kids. This did go on for a couple of years. I would say my struggle with fitting in became even more difficult when I started to take my religion more seriously after grade 11 began, and I didn't really have a lot of people around me whom I could relate to regarding that particular matter, except for this one kid who was much younger than I was. I struggled to the point where I didn't want to go to school anymore because I was just fed up of feeling so alone and not feeling accepted by my classmates. And this was something which I really wanted back in the days. I do believe that my school experiences did contribute to my trauma, but not so much compared to other things that happened later on in my life.
I definitely feel that representation matters. Like, while we struggle with particular things, going to the part where you said, like, as you started to become stronger in your faith and, change your behavior. And it was difficult because, when we start working on our spiritual religious journey, while everyone else around us is not seeming to care about that, we do look strange and we are treated as strange. But when you see that there's somebody else who is kind of like on their same path like you are, you kind of find this, like, I see them doing it, you start to develop your own kind of strength, so to speak, so that you can do it too. And that's the thing that I'm thinking about now with the youth, especially youth having immediate access to social media, is that there needs to be more representation so that youth and people in general, even adults, can see that it is okay to be you. It is okay for you to not be doing what everybody else is doing. I remember this phrase that I used to hear growing up: if your friend jumps off the bridge, are you going to jump too? Are you going to do the monkey see, monkey do? Like, when are you going to, stand in your own, values and morals? But it's difficult when we're kids because, we're still maturing.
We just want to fit in and be liked by everyone else. And
especially by the opposite gender, because that was my struggle.
Yeah, I was just going to add that seeing someone else sharing, doing something similar as you, or having similar beliefs, it makes you feel like you're not alone anymore, as if that's like motivating you to stick to your values and continue doing what you have to do and not care about what everyone else is doing, right?
Exactly. One funny story that I have from my childhood. So I grew up as a pretty hairy kid. I have a lot of hair on my head, so of course I'm going to have, a lot of hair on the rest of my body. And I remember growing up as a kid and being teased for being called a monkey, because, monkeys are a pretty hairy animal. And I remember this one particular time I was in middle school age and I was attending summer camp. Mm-hmm. And this one young man teased me for having hair on my legs. Now, my mom was like, no, I'm not going to let you shave your legs. I'm not going to let you shave your armpits. She used to get a pair of scissors and trim my armpit hair. But, I didn't really shave body hair until the night before my first day of high school, because my grandma was like, high schoolers are mean too. But I had to endure being teased and bullied for being a hairy kid, post puberty. And I remember really being in my feelings about it. I remember telling my dad, and my dad said something to me that I still kind of remind myself to this day, that, if somebody's talking about you, you're doing something right. So I kind of tried to take them teasing me about bullying to be like, well, they're paying attention to me, and I'm, if I was really a nobody, they wouldn't pay attention to me. And that's how I kind of pushed through the bullying. But honestly, I internalized that bullying to the point that I found myself forcing myself to fit in with the beauty standards of, of society, of the world, because, women are looked at as, ew, she's hairy, and, all this type of stuff. But that's the bullying that really devastated me from childhood through adulthood. Even when it came to me, becoming older and getting into relationships, prioritizing how my partner, what their beauty standards were for me, and trying to fit in with that. You know what I'm saying? And that really stressed me out, being picked on for being hairy and called a monkey.
Yeah, that must have, I'm sorry you went through that. That sounded like something that does sound like a very difficult thing to experience. And relating to what you said previously, despite what I went through, I now look back and I'm actually grateful that I had experienced what I did. Ultimately, everything that happened was for my own good, whether I understood the wisdom behind my mental health issues or people not treating me the way I wanted. It was irrelevant. What was more important was that my struggles were necessary for my growth and development, and I became a stronger individual as a result. Alhamdulillah. I no longer have this want to fit in with the crowd, because after seeing how toxic and cruel some individuals were, as well as how quick they were to throw basic moral principles out the window for the sake of popularity or other people liking them, I decided that it's really not worth it. I mean, yeah, I'd much rather have a small circle of friends, be unknown, live a simple and meaningful life, and do what I want to do rather than live for society.
Facts, facts, facts. When you are able to release that pressure of wanting to fit in, you find this sense of peace. You know, me and you, we're Muslim women. And, you know, there's this hadith that the Prophet ﷺ says in a nutshell, it's basically like Islam started as something strange and it will go back to being strange. And, you know, I haven't been Muslim my whole entire life. I've only been it for 9 years, inshallah. I mean, alhamdulillah. And inshallah, I remain Muslim. But one thing I have found that's beautiful about being Muslim is that we are distinct people. We don't want to fit in with everybody else. Allah has told us how we should be. Allah has amplified and beautified and honored, you know, who we are as servants of Him. And so when I think about how we speak, how we behave, how we dress, depending on whatever culture we come from, I'm like, wow, no wonder non-Muslims look at us as such high esteem, because we have basically told the world, I am distinct. I am different. I stand in this. I am pleased with this. And I'm striving to do this regardless of what you say. You want me to take my hijab off? No. You want me to change my name from Amina to Alex, or from Mohammed to Mo? Or you want me to hide my Islam in my heart and wear regular secular clothes based on your decision and not mine? Heck to the no. And so I think about that a lot. Like, Keyona, you are Muslim. Your Islam teaches you and pushes you all the time to stand firm in being different and not feel like you have to fit in to be successful, because you know that it is only Allah, it is only your creator who makes things happen. He says, kun fayakun, be and it is. And that's why I feel like it took me becoming an adult, and especially after Islam. I definitely struggled with it in the beginning of Islam too, because I'm not perfect. But I'm realizing now, like, it's cool to not fit in.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Fitting in, it's not always a good thing. I think it depends more on the type of environment you're in. If you're, for example, surrounded by people who are into drugs, or who commit crimes and who just have bad manners, it's not worth losing yourself to be like them, you know?
Yeah, I definitely know what you mean. And I totally agree. I'm just grateful that that even with the minimal support from childhood to now, that, you know, even though I struggled with fitting in, I have experienced bullying, like kind of tying into the title of this podcast. I've grown and I've forgiven myself, and I've been, you know, compassionate with myself at the times that I did, you know, try to fit in and that I succumbed to fitting in. You know, I thought about where I was at in that time in my life, and I forgave myself, and I was compassionate towards myself. And now as an adult, when I feel that pull to fit in, I more so try to listen to how my body feels. What is my body, specifically my heart? What is it communicating to me? And I remind myself that I don't need to fit in. I remember my grandmother pushing me to change the way I displayed my Islam for the sake of getting a corporate job. And I remember telling her, like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to try to fit in, because it's kind of like when you think about people pleasing, you know, for those of us who struggle with people pleasing, I'm still healing through that. You find that when you people please, you still don't please. So you find that fitting in is like a drug. You change this about you. You start enduring certain things that you know you don't like, and it starts building and building and building to the point one day you don't even know who you are, because you have chameleonized yourself so much.
And it's I think for people who struggle with people pleasing, what they need to realize is that it's impossible to please everyone. And if someone actually believes that they can do so, then they're just going to end up being disappointed every now and then.
Exactly. And I think that's when I snapped out of wanting to fit in and realized that if I stay on this gerbil wheel of trying to fit in and people pleasing, I'm going to constantly stress myself out
Yeah.
because you can't please people.
Yeah. Um, so so do you want to share a personal experience where there was maybe a certain time when there was this person you really wanted to like please or have them like you, but then it didn't work out?
For sure. The main reason why I wanted to join this conversation with you is because in the midst of like kind of when we were going over topics, the first story that came to mind about bullying and fitting in was when I was in the second grade. I was really good friends with this male classmate. To this day, I can't even remember what his name was. But I remember we were in line to go to our music class,
Mm-hmm.
and he knew that this other kid had a crush on me and would like kind of like listen to me if I told him to do something. And he told me, Keyona, tap Edward on the shoulder, act like you're going to hug him, but kind of turn him towards me and I'm going to punch him. What the heck was I thinking? I actually did it. And that was the first time ever in grade school that I went to the principal's office, and I was so afraid that I was going to get suspended. But I took accountability for it, and the principal basically, gave us a pass. But I thought about it after we went to the principal's office. I'm like, here it is, this kid. Even if he likes me, he's a good kid. He trusted me, and I betrayed his trust and put him in harm's way, all for the sake of being buddy-buddy with this other kid. Like, that was terrible. That didn't get me nothing. That didn't give me brownie points. That didn't give me anything that I wanted. All it did was show that I had not so good character, and I didn't make a great decision at that time. And that was definitely one of the times in elementary school where I wanted to fit in for the sake of friendship, and it was not a good idea.
Mm.
And if I'm not mistaken, Allah knows best, but I think I ended up going to Edward, whether I wrote him a note or I went to him face to face, and I apologized.
Mm. Wait, I'm sorry, could you repeat that again, please? I didn't quite.
I said, if I'm not mistaken, and Allah knows best, I think that I either wrote a note to Edward or like went to him face to face after the whole situation and apologized for my role in him getting hurt.
Oh, okay. At least you did your part and moved on with life. That was important.
Most certainly. I mean, it's important to
To own up
because
your mistakes, yeah.
yeah, it's really important and mature to know when you have done something wrong and you take accountability for it and you apologize. Because even when we hurt people and we think that that hurt doesn't affect us, it does sit with you in your heart somewhere. And it was really eating me up at my behavior. Not only was I, fearful about being suspended because I typically was not a bad child in school. I never went to the principal's office except for that one time. And so to have made a decision that led me to the principal's office and being terrified for getting suspended and having to deal with my mom, besides all of that, I really took into consideration that I hurt someone that I didn't have problems with, that I was pretty cool with in my classroom. And so it's like hurting someone innocently for someone else's pleasure, like that's really not cool. I wasn't raised that way. It didn't feel right in my spirit. And so I'm grateful that I felt that remorse at an early age and didn't find that it was okay behavior.
I'm glad that you held yourself to account over what you did. There are some people who, even when they make mistakes and whatnot, they just don't care. Like they're just so entitled to the point where they believe they can do or say whatever they want, and yeah, they just don't care.
Yep. And I feel like that behavior turns them into ruthless people, that they become older and they have, not held themselves accountable. They felt no remorse. And so their heart becomes so hard that they continue that behavior up until adulthood. That's why I'm so grateful that like even at an early age, my conscience constantly spoke to me. Even when I ignored it, like I didn't lose that internal voice that was telling me like, no, No. Because easily I could have been one of those people that became, had a hardened heart from a young age and out here, harming myself, harming other people, all for the sake of, wanting to fit in or, dealing with bullying and stuff like that. Another thing, kind of like going back into bullying, is I'm grateful that I had like my dad, my mom, my grandma, other like friends and like cousins around my age that showed me that, bullying is not going to destroy me, because it really saddens me hearing young kids getting bullied in the classroom or bullied and, taking their own life. Like, I think about my childhood, and yes, bullying never went away. Bullying has been around since the beginning of time. And just kind of reflecting on the experiences of bullying that I have experienced and I've witnessed, like, I don't recall in my own childhood, from elementary to high school, ever hearing of anybody at my school committing suicide because of the mistreatment that they had. Either they fought their way through it, someone defended them, or whatever happened. But being on social media and seeing mothers posting about how their children, young age children, are committing suicide because of the bullying that they are experiencing on their phones, plus the bullying that they are experiencing in school, it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart, number one, that they don't have support from their teachers. They don't have other classmates that are like standing up for them. And then by the time their parents find out, it's after they've already unlifed themselves. And so I'm not even a mom yet. And I know that when my husband and I have children, God willing, that our child will endure some form of teasing and bullying. And I pray that we are able to support them through that, and that they are blessed to have peers and educators that will support them through that, because I don't want my child to succumb to the effects of bullying. I want them to find the resources to push through it, like how I did and how, my husband did and my generation did. But like, this bullying thing is getting crazy, because like, I see where people tell celebrities, influencers, regular schmegular degular people on social media, go kill yourself. What the heck? It's like, this bullying is getting out of hand.
This is
It's really
crazy.
getting out of hand.
This is insane.
Yeah, it really is.
We live in a crazy world, honestly. Like, yeah, I just don't know what to say. Like, it's just mad to think that one of the things that social media can lead to a person to do, yeah, I can't really find, I don't know what else to say, honestly.
I think you and I really, really opened up a discussion of thought for the listeners to really sit and consider, how has fitting in impacted them in their life in the past as a child and now, and how does feeling like you have to fit in, like, how does that make them feel, and to reflect and say, wait a minute, do I want to continue to be on this gerbil wheel of feeling like I need to fit in with what my parents want, with what my spouse wants, what society wants? Or do I want to reclaim my power and stand in my truth, stand in my voice? Because recently I've been amplifying my voice about talking about Islam, talking about how the religion has impacted my healing, and who this person is that people know today. And at first I used to shy away from it because I didn't want people to argue with me on social media. And then I started realizing that Christians have no problem telling you about their love of Jesus Christ and how they define him as their savior and how Christianity has impacted their life. They have no problem stopping you in the grocery store. They have no problem bombarding you wherever they feel, because they feel that conviction in their heart. And here it is, I'm shying away from talking about the beautiful message of Islam because I don't want people to bully me. But it's like, if they do, so be it. Like, this is my truth. And so I started to see how I was shrinking to fit in with making people feel comfortable. Because sometimes it's all about fitting in as far as doing what people want. Sometimes it's fitting in by silencing and censoring yourself. And that's something that I am now stopping in my life. So I hope that this conversation that me and you are having right now is inspiring the listeners to really take stock of themselves and how uncomfortable they feel with fitting in and what they need to do to change and start to heal and just be who they uniquely are and own it. And then also advocate for other people who may be not in the place to, honor themselves. Like, let's support each other. Let's, be just with one another. So I really hope that this conversation really sparks something in the listeners to take action for themselves and take actions for the circles and communities that they are part of.
Inshallah. Thank you, Coach Key. I really enjoyed having this discussion with you today. Hope we have a great day ahead, and Assalamu alaikum. Take care.
Thank you so much. You too. Wa alaikum assalam.